take a slow breath in and let it go. You've arrived here, in this moment, and that itself is enough. Whatever the day has asked of you, whatever weight you've carried, you can set it down now. There's nothing you need to hold on to here, nothing you need to solve or fix or remember. This is a space for rest, a space for quiet, a space where gratitude flows not as effort, but as recognition. Tonight, I'll share with you stories, old stories, stories of monks and villagers, of wanderers and tea makers, of people who lived simply and saw clearly. They are stories of gratitude, not the kind shouted or celebrated, but the kind that hums softly beneath the surface of an ordinary life. Gratitude for a bowl of rice, for rain after drought, for a stranger's kindness, for the way light falls through a window at the end of the day. These stories unfold slowly. There is no rush, no urgency. They move like rivers move, like clouds move, like the breath moves when you stop trying to control it. So let your body soften now. Let your jaw release. Let your shoulders drop. Let your hands rest open, palms up or palms down, whichever feels more natural. Let your breath find its own rhythm, slow and easy, like the tide coming in and going out. You don't need to do anything here. You don't need to stay awake. If sleep finds you, let it come. If your mind wanders, let it wander. There's no wrong way to be here. And now, as the night settles around you, the first story begins. There was a monk who lived alone on the side of a mountain. His temple was small, barely more than a wooden hut with a slanted roof and a single room. The walls were old, and in winter the wind found every crack, but the monk did not complain. He had a straw mat to sleep on, a clay pot to boil water, and a view of the valley below that stretched wide and green beneath the morning mist. Every day, he woke before dawn. He would sit on the stone, step outside his door, and watch the sky change. First, the deep indigo of night, then the pale wash of gray, then the soft blush of pink that spread like watercolor across the horizon. And finally, the sun, climbing slowly over the far ridge, turning the mist to gold. The monk never tired of this. He had watched this sunrise for 30 years, and every morning it was new. One autumn, a young traveler came up the mountain path. He was tired and dusty, and his shoes were worn through at the heel. He had been walking for many days, searching for a teacher, someone who could show him the way to enlightenment, someone who could explain the great mysteries. When he reached the monk's hut, he bowed low and asked if he could stay. The monk nodded. "You may stay as long as you wish," he said, "but I have little to offer, only rice and tea." The traveler said that was enough. That evening, they sat together outside the hut. The monk boiled water over a small fire and poured tea into 2 wooden cups. The traveler drank quickly, still thinking of all the questions he wanted to ask. But the monk drank slowly, holding the cup in both hands, feeling the warmth against his palms. After a long silence, the traveler finally spoke. "Master," he said, "I have come seeking wisdom. I want to understand the nature of the mind. I want to know how to live without suffering. I want to know the truth." The monk looked at him gently. "That is a noble wish," he said. The traveler leaned forward. "Will you teach me?" The monk smiled. "I will show you what I know," he said, "but I am not sure it is what you expect." The next morning, the traveler woke early, eager to begin his training. He found the monk already outside, sitting on the stone step, watching the sky. "What should I do?" the traveler asked. "Sit," the monk said. So the traveler sat. They watched the sky together. The deep indigo, the pale gray, the soft pink, the gold. When the sun had fully risen, the monk stood and went inside. He returned with 2 bowls of rice and set one in front of the traveler. "Eat," he said. The traveler ate quickly, still waiting for the lesson to begin. But the monk ate slowly. He He lifted each bite carefully, chewed thoroughly, and set his bowl down between bites. When he finished, he rinsed the bowl with water from a wooden bucket and set it in the sun to dry. The traveler watched, confused. "Master," he said, "when will the teaching begin?" The monk looked at him. "It has already begun," he said. The traveler did not understand. Days passed like this. Each morning, they sat and watched the sun rise. Each evening, they drank tea. The monk spoke little. He swept the floor. He tended a small garden behind the hut where radishes and onions grew. He mended his robe with careful stitches. He poured water over the roots of a plum tree that grew beside the path. The traveler grew restless. "Master," he said one evening, "I have been here for many days, and I have learned nothing. You have not taught me about the mind. You have not explained the sutras. You have not shown me how to meditate." The monk set down his tea. "What have you been doing each day?" he asked. "Sitting, eating, watching the sky. And what have you seen?" The traveler frowned. "The sunrise, the valley, the clouds, and nothing. Just the sunrise." The monk nodded. "Yes," he said, "just the sunrise." He stood and walked to the edge of the steppe, looking out at the darkening valley. The first stars were beginning to appear. "When I was young," the monk said, "I also searched for great wisdom. I traveled from temple to temple, asking questions, reading texts, sitting in meditation for hours. I thought enlightenment was something I would find at the end of a long road, something hidden, something I had to earn." He paused, and then one morning, I woke up here. I stepped outside, and I saw the sun rising, and I realized I had been searching so hard that I had forgotten to see. He turned back to the traveler. "Gratitude," he said, "is not something you learn. It is something you notice. It is the taste of rice when you are hungry. It is the warmth of tea in your hands. It is the color of the sky before the sun rises. These things are always here, but we miss them because we are looking for something else." The traveler was quiet for a long time. The next morning, he woke before dawn. He stepped outside and sat on the stone step beside the monk. Together, they watched the sky change. The deep indigo, the pale gray, the soft pink, the gold, and for the first time, the traveler did not think about what he was supposed to learn. He simply watched, and in that watching, something softened. He saw the way the mist moved through the valley like a living thing. He saw the way the light touched the tops of the trees first, and then slowly made its way down. He saw the way the monk's face looked in that light, calm, lined with age, utterly at peace, and he felt something rise in his chest. Not understanding, not enlightenment, just gratitude for the sky, for the light, for the fact that he was here, alive, breathing, able to see this. When the sun had fully risen, the monk stood and went inside. He returned with 2 bowls of rice. The traveler took his bowl. He held it in both hands, feeling its weight, its warmth. He lifted a bite to his mouth and chewed slowly. It tasted like rice, simple, plain, perfect. He looked at the monk and smiled. The monk smiled back, and nothing more needed to be said. And somewhere not far from here, in a village by a river, another quiet tale waits to be told. There was a woman who made tofu. Every morning, she woke while the stars were still out and walked to the river to fill her buckets with water. She carried them back to her small shop, poured the water into a wide stone basin, and began to soak the soybeans she had set aside the night before. The process was long, slow. Each step required attention. She ground the beans by hand, turning the heavy stone mill in steady circles. She strained the milk through cloth, squeezing every drop. She heated it carefully over a low fire, stirring, watching, waiting for the moment when it would begin to thicken. Then she added the coagulant, a pinch of salt drawn from the sea, and watched as the milk transformed, curds forming like clouds gathering in a summer sky. She poured the curds into wooden molds, pressed them gently, and left them to set. By mid-morning, the tofu was ready. It was simple work, unglamorous. Her hands were rough from years of labor, her back often ached, and some days the fire would not catch, or the milk would not curdle properly, and she would have to start over. But she never complained. She had learned the trade from her mother, who had learned it from her mother, and so on, back through generations. It was an old knowledge, passed down not in words but in the feeling of the work itself. The rhythm of the grinding, the texture of the curds, the smell of the steam rising. One winter morning, a traveling merchant came to her shop. He was a man from the capital, dressed in fine robes, and he had stopped in the village to rest before continuing his journey south. He stepped into the shop and looked around. The walls were plain, the floor was swept clean. In the corner, a small brazier glowed, keeping the room warm. "I would like to buy some tofu," the merchant said. The woman nodded. She wrapped a block of fresh tofu in a clean cloth and handed it to him. The merchant paid and turned to leave. But then he paused. "Tell me," he said, "do you do this every day?" "Yes," the woman said. "And you have done this for how long?" 20 years. The merchant shook his head. 20 years of the same work, day after day. Does it not tire you? Does it not bore you? The woman considered this. She looked at the stone basin, still wet from the morning's water. She looked at the wooden molds, stacked neatly by the wall. She looked at her hands, stained and worn. "No," she said, "it does not bore me." The merchant raised an eyebrow. "How is that possible?" The woman smiled. "Because every day, the work is different," the merchant laughed. "But you just said you do the same thing every day." "I do," the woman said, "but the water is different. The beans are different. The fire is different. My hands are different. And so the tofu is different." She paused. "And besides," she said, "I am grateful." "Grateful?" the merchant said. "For what?" "For the river, which gives me water. For the earth, which grows the beans. For the fire, which transforms them. For my hands, which still work. For the people who will eat this tofu and be nourished by it." She looked at the merchant. "I could do this work and feel burdened. I could think, I must do this again. I must do this forever. Or I could do this work and feel grateful. I could think, I am able to do this. I am here. I am alive." The merchant was quiet. "And when I do the work with gratitude," the woman said, "it is not a burden. It is a gift." The merchant looked at the block of tofu in his hands. He unwrapped it and broke off a small piece. He ate it slowly. It was simple, soft, clean tasting. But somehow, in that moment, it tasted like more than tofu. It tasted like care, like patience, like 20 years of mornings by the river. He bowed to the woman. "Thank you," he said. She bowed back. "Safe travels." After the merchant left, the woman returned to her work. She poured water into the basin. She measured out the beans. She began to grind them, the stone turning in slow, steady circles, the same way it had turned every morning for 20 years. But today, she noticed the sound of it, the soft scrape of stone on stone, the rhythm of her breath matching the rhythm of her hands, the way the light came through the window and fell across the floor in a long, golden slant. And she thought, as she often did, how lucky she was, not because her life was easy, but because she was able to be here, to do this work, to feel the weight of the stone, to smell the steam, to know that somewhere, someone would eat the tofu she made today and feel nourished. That was enough. That was everything. And there, between silence and moonlight, another story unfolds. There was a painter who lived in a village at the edge of the forest. He was not famous. His paintings did not hang in palaces or temples. He painted on scraps of paper or pieces of silk that he bought cheaply from traveling merchants, and he sold his work for just enough to buy rice and ink. Most of his paintings were small: a bird on a branch, a leaf floating on water, a stone by the side of the road. People in the village did not understand why he painted such simple things. Why not paint something grand, they would ask. A dragon, a battle, a celestial court. But the painter would only smile and return to his work. One autumn, a young woman came to the village. She was a scholar, traveling from temple to temple, studying art and philosophy. She had seen many great paintings in her life, scrolls 10 feet long, filled with mountains and rivers and clouds, painted by masters whose names were known across the land. When she heard there was a painter in the village, she went to see his work. She found him sitting outside his small house, painting. On the paper in front of him, there was a single persimmon. That was all. The young woman watched him work. His brush moved slowly, carefully, adding a shadow here, a curve of light there. He did not rush. He did not hesitate. He simply painted. When he finished, he set the brush down and looked at the painting. The young woman leaned closer. It was just a persimmon, round, orange, sitting on a wooden table. But there was something about it. Something in the way the light touched the fruit, something in the way the shadow fell, something that made it feel alive. "Why do you paint such simple things?" the young woman asked. The painter looked at her. "Because they are not simple," he said. "But it is only a persimmon." "Yes," the painter said, "only a persimmon. But look at it." He gestured to a tree nearby, where persimmons hung heavy on the branches, glowing like lanterns in the afternoon light. "This fruit," he said, "began as a flower in the spring. It was pollinated by bees. It grew all summer, drinking rain, drinking sunlight. It ripened slowly, week by week, until it became what it is now. And soon someone will pick it and eat it and be nourished by it." He paused. "All of that," he said, "is in this one persimmon. The rain, the sun, the bees, the tree, the hands that will pick it, the mouth that will taste it. All of it together in this one small fruit." The young woman looked at the painting again, and now she saw it differently. She saw the weight of the fruit, the way it pressed down on the table, the way the light seemed to glow from within it, as if it were remembering the sun. "I spent many years," the painter said, "trying to paint great things. I wanted to capture the vastness of mountains, the power of storms, the beauty of palaces. But I could never do it. My paintings felt empty. I could not make the mountains feel like mountains." He smiled, and then one day, I painted a single stone. A stone I found by the river. I looked at it for a long time. I noticed its color, its texture, the way it had been worn smooth by water. And when I painted it, I was not trying to paint greatness. I was only trying to see the stone clearly. He looked at the young woman, and that, he said, was when I learned gratitude. "Gratitude for what?" she asked. "For the fact that I could see," he said. "For the fact that this stone existed, for the fact that the river had shaped it, and the light was touching it, and I was here, alive, able to notice it." He gestured to the painting of the persimmon. "Now, I paint only what I am grateful for," he said, "and I have found that I am grateful for almost everything." The young woman stayed in the village for several days. Each day, she watched the painter work. He painted a dragonfly, a bowl of water, a wooden spoon, a crack in a wall. And each time, she saw the same thing. Not grandness, but attention. Not perfection, but presence. On her last day in the village, the painter gave her a painting. It was small, no larger than her hand. It showed a single leaf, red and gold, lying on the ground. "For your journey," he said. She bowed deeply. "Thank you." That night, as she prepared to leave, She unrolled the painting and looked at it by candlelight. It was just a leaf, but she saw everything in it. The tree it had come from, the summer it had lived through, the wind that had pulled it free, the ground that would receive it, breaking it down, turning it into soil, into nourishment, into life again. And she thought of the painter sitting outside his small house, painting the same simple things, day after day, year after year, not because he had to, but because he wanted to, because he was grateful. And she felt something shift in her chest, a softening, a recognition that everything she had been searching for, meaning, beauty, truth, was not hidden in distant mountains or ancient temples. It was here, in the leaf, in the light, in the simple fact of being alive and able to see. She rolled the painting carefully and tucked it into her bag, and when she left the village the next morning, she walked slowly, noticing everything. The way the dew clung to the grass, the way the birds called to each other in the trees, the way her feet felt against the ground, step after step, carrying her forward. She did not know where she was going, but for the first time in a long time, that felt like enough. And there, where the forest meets the fields, another story begins. There was a farmer who grew pears. His orchard was old. Some of the trees had been planted by his grandfather, and their trunks were thick and gnarled, their branches twisted by decades of wind and weather. But every spring, they bloomed. White petals filled the orchard like snow, and the air smelled sweet and clean. By autumn, the trees were heavy with fruit. The farmer tended them carefully. He pruned in winter, clearing away dead branches. He watered in summer, carrying buckets from the well when the rain did not come. He watched for pests, for blight, for signs that the trees were struggling. It was hard work. Some years, the harvest was good. Some years, it was not. But the farmer never gave up. He loved those trees. One autumn, a severe drought came. The rain stopped falling, and the well ran dry. The farmer walked to the river, which was a mile away, and carried water back in buckets. He did this every day for weeks, pouring the water over the roots of the trees, trying to keep them alive. But the drought continued, and one morning, the farmer woke to find that one of the oldest trees, the largest, the one his grandfather had planted, had died. Its leaves had turned brown and fallen. Its branches were brittle and dry. No matter how much water he gave it, it would not revive. The farmer stood in front of the tree for a long time. He felt a deep sadness. Not anger, not frustration, just sadness. This tree had been part of his life for as long as he could remember. He had climbed it as a child. He had rested in its shade as a young man. He had harvested its pears every autumn, sweet and golden, and shared them with his neighbors. And now it was gone. That evening, the farmer sat beneath the dead tree. The sky was clear, the stars bright and cold. He thought about cutting the tree down, clearing the space for something new, but he could not bring himself to do it. Not yet. As he sat, he heard footsteps. A monk was walking through the orchard. He was an old man, thin and bent, with a walking stick and a small bundle on his back. He had been traveling through the countryside, stopping at villages to teach and to receive offerings of food. The monk saw the farmer and approached. "May I sit with you?" he asked. The farmer nodded. The monk sat down, leaning his back against the dead tree. He looked up at the branches, dark against the stars. "This tree has died," the monk said. "Yes," the farmer said. They sat in silence for a while. Then the monk spoke again. "How do you feel?" The farmer thought about this. "Sad," he said. "This tree gave me so much, and now it is gone." The monk nodded. "It is natural to feel sad," he said. "But tell me, why did you love this tree?" The farmer frowned. "Because it gave me pears, because it gave me shade, because it was beautiful." "Yes," the monk said, and it still did all of those things, even though it has now died. The farmer did not understand. The monk continued. When you ate the pears, were you grateful? Yes. When you rested in the shade, were you grateful? Yes. When you looked at the blossoms in spring, were you grateful? Yes. The monk smiled. Then the tree gave you everything it was meant to give, and you received it. That is enough. The farmer was quiet. The tree is not gone, the monk said. It is still here, in the pears you ate, in the shade you rested in the memory of the blossoms, in the wood, which you will use for something else, in the soil, which will feed the roots of the other trees. He looked at the farmer. Everything gives itself, he said, and everything returns. That is the way, and if you can see that, if you can feel gratitude not only for what is here, but also for what has passed, then you will never truly lose anything. The farmer looked at the tree again, and he thought about all the pears he had harvested over the years, hundreds of them, thousands. He thought about the sweetness of them, the juice that ran down his chin when he bit into them. He thought about the children in the village who had climbed this tree, laughing, shaking the branches until the pears fell like rain. He thought about his grandfather, who had planted this tree as a young man, who had tended it with the same care the farmer had tended it, who had probably sat beneath it just like this, looking up at the stars. And he felt something shift, not the sadness going away, but something else arriving alongside it. Gratitude for the tree, for the years it had lived, for everything it had given. He looked at the monk. "Thank you," he said. The monk bowed. "Thank you," he said, "for the shade." The next morning, the farmer woke early. He walked to the dead tree and stood in front of it. He placed his hand on the trunk, feeling the rough bark beneath his palm. "Thank you," he said quietly. Then he took his saw and began to cut. The work was slow. The wood was hard and old. But the farmer did not rush. He cut carefully, with respect, saving every piece. Some of the wood he used to repair his house. Some he carved into bowls and spoons. Some he gave to his neighbors for their fires. And some he left in the orchard, stacked neatly, drying in the sun. Years later, when the farmer was old and his hands were too weak to carry water, he made a bench from the last of the wood. He placed it beneath the other pear trees, in the spot where the old tree had once stood. And on autumn evenings, when the harvest was done, he would sit on that bench and watch the sun set over the orchard. He would think about his grandfather. He would think about the tree, and he would feel grateful, not because everything had lasted forever, but because it had been here at all. And in a small tea house by the side of a mountain road, another quiet tale is waiting. There was a woman who kept a tea house. It was a simple place, just one room, with a low table and cushions on the floor, a small hearth in the corner where she boiled water. Shelves lined with jars of tea, green tea, black tea, roasted barley tea, dried chrysanthemum flowers. The tea house sat at a bend in the road, halfway up the mountain, and travelers would stop there to rest before continuing their climb. Some stayed for only a few minutes. Some stayed for an hour. The woman welcomed them all. She never spoke much. She would greet each traveler with a bow, ask what kind of tea they would like, and then prepare it carefully. She would pour the hot water over the leaves, watching them unfurl and darken, releasing their color and their fragrance into the cup. She would set the cup in front of the traveler, bow again, and step back, and then she would wait, not impatiently, not intrusively, just present. One winter afternoon, a government official stopped at the tea house. He was a man of importance, traveling to the capital for a meeting with the emperor. He wore fine silk robes and traveled with 2 attendants who carried his luggage. When he entered the tea house, he was irritated. The journey had been long and cold, and the road was steeper than he had expected. His feet hurt, His back ached. He was not in the mood for pleasantries. "Tea," he said curtly, sitting down at the table. The woman bowed. "What kind of tea would you like?" "I don't care, whatever is hot." She nodded and turned to the hearth. She selected a jar of roasted barley tea, simple, warming, easy on the stomach. She boiled the water, poured it over the tea, and let it steep. While she worked, the official tapped his fingers on the table. He looked around the tea house, noting its plainness, its lack of decoration. He thought about the grand tea houses in the capital, where the floors were polished and the cups were made of porcelain and the tea masters performed elaborate rituals. This place was nothing like that. The woman brought the tea and set it in front of him. The cup was rough clay, unglazed, chipped at the rim. The tea was dark and plain. The official picked it up and drank. It was hot, it was bitter, it tasted like tea. He set the cup down, unimpressed. The woman stood nearby, waiting. "Is there anything else you need?" she asked. "No," the official said. She bowed and stepped back. The official sat for a few minutes, warming his hands on the cup. He looked out the small window at the road ahead. The climb was steep, and the sky was gray with the promise of snow. He sighed, and then, without thinking, he took another sip of the tea. This time, he did not gulp it. He sipped it slowly, and he noticed something. The bitterness was still there, but beneath it there was a warmth, a richness, a depth that he had not tasted the first time. He looked at the cup, at the rough clay, at the way the tea had left a dark stain along the inside. He looked at the woman, who was sweeping the floor near the hearth. "Excuse me," he said. She looked up. "This tea," he said. "What kind is it?" "Roasted barley," she said. "It is very good." She bowed. "Thank you." The official paused. "How long have you kept this tea house?" 15 years. "And do you do this every day? Serve tea to travelers?" "Yes." "Does it not bore you?" The woman smiled. "No." "Why not?" She thought for a moment. "Because every traveler is different, and every cup of tea is different." The official frowned. "But the tea is the same. You use the same water, the same leaves." "Yes," she said, "but the traveler is not the same. One traveler is tired, one is cold, one is angry, one is sad, one is eager to reach the top of the mountain. One is afraid of what waits for them there." She paused. "And so I prepare the tea differently for each person. Not the recipe, but the intention. I think about who they are, what they need, and I try to put that into the tea." The official looked at his cup again. "And what did you put into this tea?" he asked. She smiled. "Patience," she said. He blinked. "You came in angry," she said, "tired, in a hurry. And so I made the tea simple, bitter at first, but warm underneath. I wanted you to slow down, to notice, to be here, even for just a moment." The official did not know what to say. He looked at the woman, standing there in her plain robe, her face lined with age, her hands rough from years of work, and he realized something. This woman, who had nothing, who lived in a one-room tea house on the side of a mountain, who served travelers she would never see again. This woman had given him something he had not even known he needed. Not just tea, but care. He set the cup down carefully. "Thank you," he said. She bowed. "Safe travels." The official stood. He reached into his robe and pulled out a small silk pouch. Inside were several silver coins. He set it on the table. "Please," he said, "take this." The woman looked at the pouch. Then she looked at the official. "The tea costs 1 copper, she said. "I know, but I want to give you more." She shook her head gently. 1 copper is enough, but you deserve more." She smiled. "I do not need more," she said. "I have everything I need." The official stared at her. "But you live alone, in this small house. You have so little." "I have tea," she said. I have water. I have a roof. I have travelers who stop and rest. I have the mountain. I have the sky. I have this work, which I love. She paused. That is not little, she said. That is everything. The official did not argue. He left the silver on the table anyway and walked out. But as he climbed the mountain road, he thought about the woman's words. I have everything I need. He thought about his own life, the palace, the servants, the fine robes and expensive meals, the endless meetings, the constant striving for more power, more wealth, more recognition, and he wondered if he had ever felt the way that woman felt. Content, grateful, enough. He reached the top of the mountain as the sun was setting. The capital lay ahead, glittering in the distance, but for the first time in years, he did not feel excited to arrive. He turned and looked back down the mountain, toward the small tea house, barely visible now in the gathering dusk, and he thought, maybe I will stop there again on my way home. And where the river bends and the willow trees lean, another story is quietly unfolding. There was a fisherman who lived by the river. Every morning, he would take his boat out onto the water and cast his net. Some days, he caught many fish. Some days, he caught only a few, but he never complained. He was a quiet man. He had lived alone for many years. Ever since his wife had passed away, he had no children, no family, just the river and the boat and the fish. The people in the village thought he was lonely, but he was not. One autumn morning, a young boy came to the riverbank. He was maybe 10 years old, with bright eyes and bare feet, and he stood at the edge of the water, watching the fisherman. The fisherman cast his net and waited. The boy watched. After a while, the fisherman pulled in the net. There were 3 fish inside, silver and flashing in the morning light. The boy clapped his hands. You caught them, he said. The fisherman smiled. He took the fish from the net and placed them in a wooden bucket. Then he cast the net again. The boy stayed and watched. This went on for some time. The fisherman casting, the boy watching, the sun climbing higher in the sky. Finally, the fisherman pulled his net in for the last time. He had caught enough for the day. He rowed back to the shore and climbed out of the boat. The boy was still there. Do you fish every day? The boy asked. Yes, the fisherman said. Why? To eat, to sell, to live. But what if you don't catch anything? The fisherman shrugged. Then I don't catch anything. The boy frowned. Don't you get sad? The fisherman thought about this. No, he said. I don't get sad. Why not? The fisherman set down his bucket and sat on the edge of the boat. He gestured for the boy to sit beside him. When I cast my net, the fisherman said, I do not know what will happen. Maybe I will catch many fish. Maybe I will catch none. But I cast it anyway, not because I am certain, but because I am willing. The boy tilted his head. Willing to try, to hope, to trust that the river will give what it can give, and if it gives nothing, then I am still grateful. For what? For the river, for the boat, for the morning, for the fact that I am here, alive, able to cast the net at all. The boy thought about this. But that doesn't make sense, he said. How can you be grateful if you catch nothing? The fisherman smiled. Because catching fish is not the only gift, he said. He pointed at the water. Look. The boy looked. The river was wide and slow, the surface smooth as glass. The sunlight lay across it in a long, golden path. On the far bank, trees leaned over the water, their leaves yellow and red. Every morning, the fisherman said, I get to see this. The light on the water, the trees, the birds, the way the mist rises when the air is cold. I get to feel the boat beneath me, rocking gently. I get to hear the sound of the water against the hull. I get to smell the river, which is a smell I have loved since I was a child. He paused. All of that, he said, is a gift. and it is here whether I catch fish or not." The boy was quiet. "And besides," the fisherman said, "the river gives me more than fish." "What else?" "Patience, humility, gratitude, peace." The boy did not fully understand, but he nodded anyway. The fisherman stood and picked up his bucket. "Would you like a fish?" he asked. The boy's eyes widened. "Really?" "Yes. Take one to your mother." The boy reached into the bucket and pulled out a fish. It was still alive, twitching in his hands. He looked at it for a long moment, then looked at the fisherman. "Thank you," he said. The fisherman bowed. "Thank you," he said. "For what?" "For sitting with me, for watching, for asking questions." The boy smiled and ran off down the path, the fish clutched in his hands. The fisherman watched him go. Then he turned back to the river. He poured the remaining fish into a larger basket and began to clean his net, picking out bits of weed and debris. The work was slow, methodical. He had done it 1,000 times before, and he would do it 1,000 times again, but he did not think of it as tedious. He thought of it as part of the rhythm, part of the gift. He thought of the boy running home with the fish. He thought of the mother who would cook it and feed her family. He thought of the river, which had given him the fish, which had given him the morning, which had given him this life. And he felt grateful, not because everything was perfect, but because everything was here and there, where the temple bells ring softly through the evening air. Another story begins. There was a monk who rang the temple bell. This was his only job. Every evening, just before sunset, he would climb the stairs to the bell tower, take hold of the wooden beam, and strike the bell 3 times. The sound would roll out across the valley, deep, resonant, shaking the air. People in the village would hear it and know that the day was ending. They would stop their work, wash their hands, and sit down to eat. Children would come in from playing. Fires would be lit. The night would begin. The monk had been ringing the bell for 40 years. He was an old man now. His back was bent, and his legs were weak. The stairs to the bell tower were steep, and climbing them took longer each year. But he never missed a day. One evening, a younger monk came to him. "Master," he said, "you are old. Your body is tired. Let me ring the bell from now on." The old monk looked at him. "Can you ring it the way I ring it?" he asked. The young monk frowned. "Of course, I pull the beam and strike the bell. It is not difficult." The old monk smiled. "Come with me." Together, they climbed the stairs to the bell tower. The old monk took hold of the beam and struck the bell once. The sound rang out, deep and clear. "Now you try," the old monk said. The young monk took hold of the beam and struck the bell. The sound was the same. "You see?" the young monk said. "It is no different." The old monk shook his head. "You hear only the sound," he said. "But that is not all there is." The young monk did not understand. The old monk sat down on the floor of the bell tower. He gestured for the young monk to sit beside him. "When I ring the bell," the old monk said, "I do not only ring it, I listen." "Listen to what?" "To the sound, to the way it rises, to the way it spreads, to the way it fades." He paused. "When I ring the bell, I think about the people in the valley. I think about the farmer finishing his work in the fields. I think about the mother calling her children home. I think about the old woman sitting by her window, waiting for the day to end. I think about all of them hearing this sound, and I am grateful that I can give it to them." The young monk listened, and when the sound fades, the old monk said, "I think about silence, about the way silence follows sound, about the way we cannot have one without the other, and I am grateful for both." He looked at the young monk. "This is why I ring the bell," he said. "Not because I have to, but because I am grateful for the chance to do it." The young monk was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "I understand." The old monk smiled. "Good. Then you may ring the bell with me tonight." That evening, they rang the bell together. The old monk held the beam and struck it once. The young monk stood beside him, listening. And this time, he heard more than the sound. He heard the way it filled the air, the way it traveled across the valley, touching everything, the way it faded slowly, gently, until it was gone. And he thought about the people in the village, hearing it, stopping their work, coming home, and he felt something rise in his chest. Gratitude, not for anything he had done, but for the chance to be here, to be part of this, to ring the bell and send the sound out into the world. After the bell had been rung 3 times, the old monk and the young monk sat together in silence. The sun set, the stars appeared, the valley grew dark, and the young monk thought about all the evenings the old monk had climbed these stairs, all the times he had rung the bell, all the people who had heard it and been comforted by it. 40 years, 14,000 days, 42,000 rings of the bell, and not once had the old monk complained. Not once had he thought of it as a burden, because he had never rung the bell for himself. He had rung it for others, and in doing so, he had found something that many people search for their whole lives and never find. Not happiness, not peace, but gratitude. The kind of gratitude that comes not from receiving, but from giving. The kind of gratitude that says, I am glad I was here. I am glad I could do this. I am glad I had the chance to serve. The young monk looked at the old monk, sitting beside him in the darkness, his face calm, his hands folded in his lap, and he bowed deeply. Thank you, he said. The old monk bowed back. Thank you, he said, and in the stillness of a snowy valley, where footsteps leave no sound, another story waits. There was a woman who tended a garden in winter. Most people thought this was strange. In winter, nothing grows. The ground freezes, the seeds sleep. Gardens are left bare until spring, but this woman tended her garden anyway. Every morning, she would walk out into the snow and check on the beds. She would clear away branches that had fallen in the wind. She would repair the fence where animals had pushed through. She would stand in the cold, looking at the empty soil, and then she would bow, just once, and then she would go back inside. The neighbors watched her and shook their heads. She is wasting her time, they said. There is nothing to tend in winter. But the woman did not stop. One winter day, a traveler came to the village. He was a scholar, traveling from town to town, studying the way people lived. He had heard about the woman who tended her garden in winter, and he wanted to understand why. He knocked on her door. She opened it and smiled. Yes, I have heard, the scholar said, that you tend your garden even in winter. Is this true? Yes, she said. May I ask why? She thought for a moment. Would you like to see the garden? Yes. She put on her coat and led him outside. The garden was covered in snow. The beds were empty. The fence was old and weathered. There were no plants, no flowers, no signs of life. The scholar looked around. But there is nothing here. Yes, the woman said. In winter the garden rests. Then why do you tend it? Because it is still here. The scholar frowned. I do not understand. The woman walked to one of the beds and knelt down. She brushed away the snow, revealing the dark soil beneath. This soil, she said, has fed my family for 30 years. It has grown carrots and radishes and beans. It has grown herbs and flowers. It has given and given and given. She paused. And now, in winter, it rests. It does not give anything, but it is still here, and I am grateful for it. The scholar looked at her. So you tend it out of gratitude? Yes, I tend it because I want to honor it. I want to say, thank you. You have given me so much, and even though you cannot give me anything now, I will still care for you. She stood and looked at the garden. Most people, she said, are grateful only when they receive. But I think gratitude is also about honoring what has been given, even when it is no longer giving. The scholar was quiet. The woman continued, My husband died 5 years ago. For 30 years, we worked this garden together. He is not here anymore. He cannot help me anymore. But I am still grateful for him. I am still grateful for the years we had. And so I tend this garden not only for myself, but for him, to honor what he gave, to say, "You were here, and I remember." She turned to the scholar. "That," she said, "is why I tend the garden in winter." The scholar bowed deeply. "Thank you," he said. That evening, he sat in the village inn and thought about the woman's words. He thought about all the things he had been given in his life. Not just material things, but intangible things: love, time, moments of beauty, moments of peace. And he thought about how often he had forgotten to be grateful for them. Not because he was cruel or ungrateful by nature, but because he had only noticed them when they were present, when they were giving to him. He had never thought to honor them after they were gone. He thought about his own teacher, who had died many years ago, a man who had given him wisdom, guidance, patience, a man who had shaped who he became, and he realized he had never said thank you, not out loud, not in a way that mattered. That night, the scholar lit a candle. He sat in front of it and closed his eyes, and he spoke to his teacher as if he were still there. "Thank you," he said, "for everything you gave me, for everything you taught me, for your patience, for your kindness, for believing in me when I did not believe in myself." He paused. "You are not here anymore, but I am still grateful, and I will carry what you gave me for the rest of my life." When he opened his eyes, the candle was still burning, and he felt something he had not felt in years. Not sadness, not loss, but peace. The kind of peace that comes when you stop trying to hold on to what is gone and instead honor what was here. The kind of peace that comes from gratitude. And there, in the quiet of a moonlit forest, the final story begins. There was an old woman who lived at the edge of the forest. She had lived there for as long as anyone could remember. Some said 50 years, some said 70, some said even longer. She lived in a small wooden house with a thatched roof and a single window. Beside the house, there was a well, and beside the well, a stone bench. Every evening, just after sunset, the old woman would sit on the stone bench and light a lantern. She would set it on the edge of the well, and it would burn there through the night, a small point of light in the darkness. No one knew why she did this. Some people thought it was to guide travelers who might be passing through the forest. Some thought it was to ward off animals. Some thought the old woman was simply lonely and liked the company of the light, but no one ever asked her. One night, a young traveler got lost in the forest. He had been walking for hours, and the darkness was thick beneath the trees. He could not see the path. He could not see the sky. He was beginning to panic. And then, in the distance, he saw a light, small, flickering. But there, he walked toward it, stepping carefully, following the glow. When he reached the edge of the forest, he saw the old woman's house. The lantern was burning on the well, just as it did every night. The young traveler approached, and the old woman looked up. "Excuse me," he said. "I am lost. May I stay here until morning?" "Of course," the old woman said. "Sit." He sat on the stone bench beside her. She offered him water from the well, and he drank deeply. "Thank you," he said. They sat in silence for a while, watching the lantern burn. Finally, the young traveler spoke. "Why do you light the lantern every night?" he asked. The old woman smiled. "Because someone might need it." "Has anyone ever needed it before?" "You did," she said. The traveler blinked. "But how did you know I would come?" "I didn't." "Then why did you light it?" The old woman looked at him. "Because I am grateful," she said. "Grateful for what?" "For the light, for the oil, for the fact that I am able to light it, for the possibility that someone, someday, might need it." She paused. "When I was young, she said. I was lost in the forest, just like you. It was a cold night, and I was frightened. I thought I would die there, but then I saw a light, a lantern, burning in the window of a house. I walked toward it, and the person who lived there took me in. They gave me food and warmth and a place to sleep. And ever since then, she said, I have lit a lantern every night, not because I know someone will come, but because I am grateful that someone lit a lantern for me. The young traveler was quiet. I do not do it expecting anything in return, the old woman said. I do not do it because I have to. I do it because I am grateful. And gratitude, I have found, is not something you keep. It is something you give. She looked at the lantern, its flame small and steady. Every night, she said, I light this lantern and I think, thank you. Thank you for the person who helped me. Thank you for the light that guided me home. Thank you for the warmth that saved me. She turned to the young traveler. And now, she said, you are here, and I am grateful for that too. The young traveler felt something in his chest, a tightness, a warmth. He thought about all the people who had helped him in his life, all the small kindnesses he had received, the stranger who had given him directions when he was lost in a city, the merchant who had given him food when he had no money, the old man who had let him sleep in his barn during a storm. He had never thanked them, not really. He had moved on, forgotten, assumed that kindness was something that just happened, that it was his due, that it required nothing from him in return. But now, sitting beside this old woman, watching the lantern burn, he understood. Kindness was not something that just happened. It was a choice, and gratitude was also a choice. You could receive kindness and forget it, or you could receive kindness and carry it forward. You could be grateful for what you were given and let that gratitude become a light that you offered to others. The young traveler looked at the old woman. Thank you, he said. She smiled. You are welcome. He stayed there until morning. When the sun rose, he thanked her again, and she gave him directions to the nearest village. As he walked away, he turned back once and saw her sitting on the stone bench, the lantern still burning beside her, even though the night was over. And he thought, someday I will light a lantern too, not because he had to, but because he was grateful. And now the night grows deep. You have traveled far tonight, through mountains and valleys, through villages and forests, through temples and tea houses and gardens covered in snow. You have met monks and painters and fishermen. You have met a woman who made tofu, a man who rang a bell, an old woman who lit a lantern, and in each of them, you have seen the same thing: gratitude. Not loud, not showy, not demanding, but quiet, steady, woven into the fabric of their lives. Gratitude for a sunrise, for a bowl of rice, for a cup of tea, for a tree that gave pears, for a river that gave fish, for a garden that rested in winter, for a light that guided someone home. Gratitude not for what they had, but for what they were able to give. Gratitude not for perfection, but for presence. And maybe, as you lie here now, you can feel it too. That quiet hum beneath the surface of your own life. All the small things you might have forgotten to notice. The breath moving in and out of your body. The softness of the pillow beneath your head. The warmth of the blanket around you. The fact that you are here, alive, able to rest. You don't have to do anything with this feeling. You don't have to make it bigger or hold on to it or turn it into something. Just let it be. Let it rest beside you, like a companion, like a friend. And if sleep comes, let it come. If your mind wanders, let it wander. There is no wrong way to be here. You have done enough. You are enough, and the night will hold you. The way the earth holds the seeds in winter, the way the river holds the fish, the way the sky holds the stars. Rest now, let go, and be grateful for this moment, for this breath, for this quiet, gentle night.